First, a few comments about the World Conservation Congress that recently completed on Oahu, but with pieces on all islands. I think many of you know I served on the National Host Committee for the World Conservation Congress. This is affectionately known as the Olympics of Conservation because it's every 4 years. But it was notable that it's the first time this has ever been held in the US. And it was interesting because essentially the state of Hawaii acted on behalf of the US government in order to bring this in. And it took place under the leadership of 2 governors, 2 university presidents, and a transition of a number of members of the host committee, including turnover in most of the state agencies and affiliated groups. By all measures, it was a huge success. Over 10,000 attendees from 192 countries, by far their largest conference ever. And I'll just share a couple of comments about how I think this fits in. I was not a deep part of APEC, but this was likened to the APEC effort by the state. My opinion is that the APEC experience helped set the stage for the rest of the world to realize that Hawaii was capable of hosting an event like this. But frankly, APEC wasn't a game changer for Hawaii. It was a meeting where everyone came in, did their business, and left. WCC had a very different feel to it. Hawaii really permeated this conference in every way, from a just spectacular opening event. We had many university people who were part of that from our campuses. And you can watch it on, it's been captured and available to watch. But what we brought to WCC that I think nobody had done before was an integration of culture and conservation. And I've commented on some of that before, and our initiatives around working with Malama Honua and the Polynesian Voyaging Society, our partnership with Kamehameha Schools, our work on Hawaiian language, our sustainability policy that pulls some of this together. And that was all on stage for the world, and most places commented that they had never seen any place as far along as we are. We certainly have our challenges and issues, but I think this was a time when unlikely bedfellows all pulled together to do something great for Hawaii. For UH, as I mentioned, we had faculty, staff, and students, both ceremonial, but we were in literally scores of presentations and panels. I think one of the most impactful activities, and I'd acknowledge the leadership of Associate Dean Denise Antolini of the William S. Richardson School of Law. She had a group of law students actively engaged in the formal processes of the conference around passing resolutions. So this is sort of the UN of conservation almost, and our students got to engage in literally international diplomacy around conservation and made an immense contribution. Almost half the resolutions originated and were supported by our Hawaii team. Some of you will have seen the Make the LOI Awesome design challenge that we put forth, which is very popular. In fact, I got a comment from a colleague and friend on the windward side that they're going to launch a similar awesomeness design challenge for stream and fish pond Ahupua'a initiative on the windward side of Oahu. And we also announced a partnership between UH and Kamehameha Schools with Hawaii Green Growth to focus on education, workforce, and next generation leadership around sustainability and conservation. So some really great outcomes, and we won't have another one for 4 years, which is a good thing too, but I think everybody believes it was worth the effort and resources that went into it. Some of you will have seen a great front page story about early college and dual credit. So early college, when we offer college classes in high schools, is the newest and by far most popular now form of dual credit program for us within the state of Hawaii. The story is really that we now have data for the first time. So that was the first release of data. I don't want to steal the thunder of the October Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, where we'll go in more detail. But this is perhaps the most impactful thing we have undertaken collectively in this state to increase high school enrollment in college, and also to impact year 1 to 2 persistence. So 81% of the DOE high school graduates who took dual credit are going on to college, as compared to 53% of those who don't. So that is huge in terms of impact. Similarly, impact on students who go to college and who show up for year 2, who enrolled in year 1. Those numbers are almost as big, 20+% changes. And perhaps most importantly, these dual credit programs are closing the gap between our economically challenged students and those who are not economically challenged. And using federal definitions of Pell eligibility, nationally and in Hawaii, participation and persistence by low-income students lags far behind middle-class and upper-class students. And right now, our dual credit programs are closing those gaps from 30 or 40% to single-digit differences, if not equalizing them entirely, which is really quite remarkable. Anecdotally, many of you remember former Regent Jeff Aceto. He actually taught a religion class as part of our early college program. He did that over the summer as part of the Community Colleges Initiative to bring in underrepresented minorities into higher education, and that's one of their strategic initiatives recognized with performance funding. This is an incredible collaboration with the DOE, probably one of the best things we do with them right now. It's facilitated by our P20 Partnerships for Education, which I continue to believe is perhaps the best P20 program in the country. And what we are now trying to do is take it from some locations and some schools, primarily supported by federal and philanthropic funding, into a mainstream part of what we do together in the state. We talked about how to try to do that financially, and we're recommending support of the DOE request, and we'll say a little bit about that more in committee. But we think the best approach is for the DOE to have the funding to request the classes that they need in their schools from the appropriate UH campus that can offer those. And we'll also be looking at some resources for coordination within the university. So this is a plug for the October Academic and Student Affairs Committee meeting. Some good news was covered, I think, in the Hawaii Island papers, but not so much on Oahu. This week, we actually started physical construction of the College of Pharmacy building in Hilo, at UH Hilo. You will recall that this is one of the projects where the bids came in above budget, and there was some skepticism by the board as to whether this would be fatal. And we were pretty confident, but you're never 100% sure that it would be non-fatal. But as you can see, Vice President Gouveia and her team figured out how to manage scope and dollars to get bulldozers into the ground. So that's good news. We hope, I think we're shooting to be open for classes in fall 2018. So roughly a 1.5-year construction time frame on that one. Also, Vice President Morton reminded me this morning that the Culinary Institute of the Pacific, which I recommend you drive by if you get a chance on Diamond Head, is on track for completion January 7th. That's phase 1. So we're doing well on our 2 major construction projects now. A couple of you have asked me about updates on the Chancellor searches. Relatively breaking news. UH West Oahu Chancellor search is a little bit ahead of the UH Manoa Chancellor search. At West Oahu, we have had 3 finalist candidates out. They spent 2 days on campus and meeting community members, campus individuals, and also system leadership. I have also met with all those candidates. The committee will be meeting next week to provide their consolidated input to me, and I am hopeful that I will be able to make the October Board of Regents meeting with a recommendation for your approval. That's for West Oahu. UH Manoa is running probably 6 weeks or so behind. That committee has completed its confidential Skype interviews of the applicants. We keep applicant pools strictly confidential. I did meet with them this week, and we're finalizing the plans to bring, again, as we expected, 3 to 5 finalists to campus for public presentations and meetings. We expect to have that take place in October. I'm not quite sure that we'll make it for the November board meeting, but certainly we'll be finished with the recommendation this calendar year. So it'll be subject to when we're able to schedule the next board meeting. That's our current plan. I will say, when I met with the committee this week, and it's a large and very diverse committee, they were very enthusiastic about the recommendations for finalists, which I thought was very good news.